Well, very good. I think we can start right on time then. Sounds good. So I'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And again, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. We have some business to take care of from, we canceled last month's meeting due to a lack of quorum. So if I could get a motion to approve the minutes for September 9th, 2024, I would appreciate it.
I move to approve those minutes.
Okay, thank you.
I second.
Thank you, Nora. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, very good.
Was I there?
We do there. I hold on. I can tell you who was there. You were not there, Gwen.
I guess I have to abstain.
You will abstain. One, Gwen. Okay. Communications and announcements. Anybody have any? I do have one myself. Were you raising your hand, Nora? No.
No.
I did have Loretta reached out to me from Conservation Commission. I guess they're going to be going before the Board of Selectmen on November 14th to request that the board designate the funds that they get from Yale Forest every year. It sounds like it's the payment in lieu of taxes, the pilot payment, that those be designated towards an open space fund. And I did some checking, brief checking of the financials for the town, and it does not look like there's a designated fund balance for open space. And it looks like, if best I could tell, I didn't get confirmation from Loretta, but it looks like that payment in lieu of taxes is about $1,700 a year. So I mean, it's a start, but and that I think it would be appropriate that the town really identify a fund. They call it unassigned reserve fund for open space, because even if it's $1,700 a year, it adds up after 10 years with interest. That could be 20,000, and it could be money used as seed money to match a state grant or a federal grant or whatever. So I think it's a good idea. I think actually the town should be, the Open Space Master Plan recommends that they designate a little bit more money than that on an annual basis from the town budget into it. And also, if they had a open space subdivision, that the money for there should be an assessment per lot that goes towards that fund as well, like a lot of other towns do. But I just want to report to you. So I will send a letter on to Loretta. I don't know if you all, I'll send it out to you guys if you'd like, on behalf of open space, or I can do it by myself, because obviously I've been involved in that stuff before. But go ahead, Gwen.
It's the one who asked about that a few years ago, and wanted our town to have that, because what happened is I once paid my taxes too much. I paid a little too high, and they did not do refunds. So I asked, could it be put into the open space account? They said, we can't do that. It has to go into the general fund. So then I brought this up to the Conservation Commission after seeing that other towns did have an open space account that was added to, in whatever small amount. Each town had its own amount, but we didn't. So I think it really is important.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I'm aware of, at least in the past, it may have changed, but you had, if there's no activity after 3 years in one of those reserve accounts, that they could be turned back through the general fund. But even if it's an activity of mailing out something, a $5 activity within the account, then it allows it to continue on for another 3 years. So yeah, I'd strongly recommend. I mean, again, that's the Open Space Master Plan has been in place for over 10 years now, and that was one of the major recommendations in it. So I think that's a good start. So anybody else have any thoughts on that, comments?
Gwen, can I ask a question?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Is that money for buying development rights, not for buying property outright?
Voted on, it could be determined, but in some cases, something good could come along and we have a chance. And we don't have any money, then you have nothing to negotiate with. You know, if they should ask Conservation Commission, do you guys, you know, think this is a valuable parcel or not? And you, it might say, yeah, but it's too bad we don't have any money. And it could be developmental rights. So you would have to, you'd have to work and convince. I don't know if everybody votes on this or not, or if it's just commissions. I don't know how that works. Like with the Knowlton farm and but however it works, if you don't have the money there, then you're not really in a position to negotiate. And you could lose a once in a lifetime chance.
It really depends on the fund is set up, that it can be designated, you know, for multiple purposes. And, you know, so that's something that they, when they set up that account within the town's financials, that they basically give it some definition. So I think that could be easily accomplished.
I'm curious, when the town designated, and I'm thinking it was like 140 grand. I may have that number wrong, toward purchasing the development rights for Crook's Orchard, and we voted on it at a town meeting. How did we accumulate that pot of money, or was that something that was designated out of the town's budget outright for that opportunity? Do you remember, Mike?
I think it was, you know, it was by town meeting, which is unique. A lot of towns have referendums, but it was, as I remember, it was taken out of their basically contingency funds and reserve.
Their
funds.
reserve fund, okay.
And that's not necessarily a good practice. I mean, and I think it's, you know, the thing is, if you may be able to, it's handled, done correctly, you may be able to take donations into this fund as well from people from the states or whatever. So, you know, there's opportunities there as well. So anyhow, I'll draft something together before I send it out and get it to everybody here.
Yeah, I totally support it myself. And I really think, you know, in terms of this movement, you know, to keep Ashford rural,
Right.
is we have got to have a means to be able to buy some of these properties that are currently rural. And if we have no, you know, seed money, so I think it just gets the awareness there. So I think the Conservation Commission is onto something with starting with this little $1,700.
Right. If you don't start, you'll never get there.
Right.
So on to old business and of great importance, the October 16th stakeholders meeting. And thank you, Nora, for taking all that material and putting it into something that made some sense. And you did a great job there of not only translating things and then also kind of putting them to some little buckets or little cubby holes that we can all kind of look at and kind of really digest a little bit better. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. It turned out to be a wonderful evening from this perspective. Maureen and Nora and I were there, and we had put out 15 chairs, and people just coming. And I think at the end of the day, I think we had 41 people, I think. And, you know, a good cross section of people. And, you know, we had the schools were represented by the superintendent. We had, you know, the pastor was there, Pastor Pat, for the church, and a cross section of people from some small business. So I think it was good attendance. I think people were really engaged and wanted to speak and provide input. Yeah, so rather me do all the talking all the time. Seems like I like to talk, I guess. Let Maureen and Nora, why don't you just talk about your thoughts on it, and then we can jump into some of the meat and potatoes of what was the output for the evening. So, you know, Maureen, you want to go ahead and give your thoughts?
Am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting how few people were actually from around here. A lot of people from out of state, and how people actually got here. I thought it'd be curious, but it was just really uplifting to see how many people actually love living here. And it's the way I feel also, but people just seem to be so committed to this area, and it just was wonderful to see. It was just, I thought people were taking everything seriously. So it's good.
Thank you, Nora. What do you think?
Well, the most interesting thing I found, I wrote in the email or in the report, was that when people put their Post-it note up, most of the number one most important stickers went under environment, but nobody really talked about that much in the breakout groups. They really talked a lot about needing a town center,
Mhm.
and that kind of means slightly different things to different people. But I feel like there were a lot of people there who were interested in community. So that was, I think, good news. There were mostly people that were, let's say, 60 and up, I'd say.
Mhm.
And so I wonder how much that demographic has to do with the interest in community. I'm not sure. But I will say that in the OTOF, sorry, I got too many initials here, the POCD committee, when I presented this information, they seemed that they would be interested in some follow-up discussions, some sessions in which people would sit down for a longer period of time and actually come up with solutions, not just be brainstorming like they did um, on the 18th, but to say, okay, we want open space. How can we afford to maintain a town if we don't have more development, etc.? Answering the hard questions. And I don't think that happened at this meeting, though it was exciting to see that many people, and most of them were very interested. There were three crabby people there. And one of them said, just sell all the town property that's vacant, including Ashford Academy. Um, and that was interesting. And other people, there were two other people that were sort of not being touchy-feely at this meeting, but most everybody was. So it was a pretty positive experience, I thought. So
Interestingly enough,
basically, I'm sorry, let me just throw this in real quickly. What I told the people at the POCD committee meeting, that we had the emails of these 40 people, and that we could use that as a basis for inviting people to come to other sessions. And we could perhaps I mean, this will be up to them what they want, but they could be specific topics that would be discussed at a certain meeting. Maybe everybody talks about the same thing on this week, and then 3 weeks later, everybody talks about a different subject. But they did like that idea. They're also interested in listening sessions with business owners and with farmers and with the elderly people in town. So they're trying to get input from these sort of interest groups that are focused. I'm finished now.
thanks. What I hope we can get out, at least tonight, is begin to identify, to follow up kind of what you're talking about there, is items or some of the things that were brought up that might be things that we can jumpstart some other groups of people, people that want to take those ideas and move them forward. Okay, so people that want to be the champions of an idea. And a couple examples of those that jumped out were the foundation idea. Maybe some people were talking about the invasive idea. There's a thing about the Bay Lily and some other type of activities to kind of have a community activity idea. So I mean, if there's things we can identify in that sense, then that would be a good thing to kind of pull out and maybe take those and see if there's some high easies to kind of get some successes going early on at the next meeting. And with the thought being maybe there'd be a next meeting probably in the January, February timeframe. Hopefully there's no snow, but to kind of give us time to kind of get something back out and into the Ashford Citizen and kind of get these things organized. And also the second part of this thing would be, I did we did have an EDC meeting a couple weeks ago, and I did present to the EDC members the things that have been identified within the context of these lists that might be EDC related. And I think maybe it would be behoove us to kind of identify some other things within this these lists that maybe have a resonance with some committee that exists now or board or commission, and thereby get that to them. They may not have been represented there, but get that information to them. Say, hey, this is something would you be interested, or is this high in your priority list, or something that you'd like to advocate and move forward a little more aggressively, because that's something that was brought out within this community forum. So I mean, those might be two ways for us to kind of leverage this information, not let it sit on a table someplace getting dust, and kind of get these things kick-started a little bit. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I'll just say two things as a follow-up to the meeting. That I did send out to you some information on this foundation idea, and it looks to me, and I apologize, I sent this draft contract thing out, that and it doesn't have to be our town or a future. Matter of fact, I suggest we find other people in groups, but I didn't realize Lee had gotten it back to me as soon as she did. But I mean, it looks like there's some easy mechanisms, if that's something the community is interested in funding these other opportunities out there that may be grant eligible. And there's a vehicle for that with this group I'd never heard of before, the Eastern Connecticut Community Foundation. And you basically can go you can either do a pass-through type of situation, but the better way to go is with this, to raise enough funds where you get $10,000 in there, and they invest the money in a legitimate way. They're part of a bigger association, so to speak. They do take out, the fund managers for managing the money, and also this group have administrative fees, but they look to be reasonable to me. And then we could use this group, whatever it is, whether it's our town or future, or a bunch of residents that get together, basically can act as kind of the board of directors of making recommendations of how this money could be allocated in the community. Maybe it's to support a Girl Scout activity, or maybe it's something to help the garden club or the invasive group or some other thing, or it could be something at the school to buy books for the school or whatever. It can be a lot of things. Some of those things that are not groups that are basically 50C3 groups, the money would have to flow through the town, so that the town could then make the the donation or the award of any of these types of grants. The other thing that's great about this is that this organization, they manage all the tax stuff with IRS. Anybody who donates to it it's a tax eligible donation. So I mean, it has a lot of pluses, but it's something, I forwarded stuff to Catherine Silversmith for her to look at, but I think it's something everybody can chew on to see how we might want to proceed. But that might be one we take back to the group and see if there's a group of people that want to, be part of this thing. And it's not a really formal thing. If you look at the contract, it's not like there's a liability issue on people that are getting involved in this, but it sounds to be pretty good. So that's something to think about.
Where does that initial 10,000 come from?
We have to raise it. I mean, it could either be donations and things, and that's part of what the lifting is doing. In a lot of communities, there's a number of them all around. I think Margaret knows there's one in Mansfield. I know the one in South Windsor. They do fundraisers, could be anything, or they get donations, or you solicit donations from businesses, from the community at large. It's interesting. I asked, well, what are you doing in Ashford? And I think I sent that to you. There's a number of things that they have done in Ashford, made awards, but they've also had some people that live in Ashford that donate to this community, this foundation, and say, I'd like, part of my money to go towards the hole in the wall gang. That's what this one person, they said, was donated. And people can leave their estates. Some people, they could do things with rollovers of their 401s or things that they want to contribute to. So you could even use this thing for my family is involved with the foundation, community foundation in Wellington, for scholarships for the kids that graduate there, for my parents, and and then you could do those type of things too, make, you know, donations to the school for scholarships. I mean, it's endless, basically. It depends on who the group is and how you funnel the money, whether the group would get it directly from the foundation based upon recommendations of the group, or whether because they're like a, you know, like a garden club, for instance, that may not be, or even the Ashford Arts Council, so you may go through the town to make those awards. But that's food for thought. And I guess the question this group is, that might be one we take back to a group in January and say, okay, this idea, does anybody want to step forward and be part of this group? Here's, you know, it's basically this person could meet with these, this organization would meet with those, anybody who's interested, and go through it. It's pretty simple.
Do you have to have the 10,000 to go into
No.
the foundation? Oh,
No,
okay.
the only thing that happens, you have to have, they will not make an award if you go through there's two different ways you can do it. I think I sent it, you know, if you do this, what they call the foundation, where's the word? It's an endowed donor advised fund, then you're going to get the $10,000. After that, you can make awards, you know, anything type of award, and you can go underneath the $10,000 that you've already initiated and got it to that level. You know, and then you can close out the fund if you had to. You know, it's pretty flexible. I was actually kind of impressed with, you know, but there is they charge 4.5% for their administration, and then the fund manager, I think they charge like 1% for the returns. But they've had some good returns. A lot of these people invest in, you know, they do make some money for this fund, you know. Yes.
Well,
Nora?
it seems to me that if we wanted to present that at the next session, we would want to work with the foundation to give us some language about what is the Ashford Community Fund, or whatever we want to call it. And, you know, because if you were to go to people and say, would you like to donate toward this? It seems like it would have to be kind of concrete as to, you know, the draft language around what is this foundation and what is its purpose. The Ashford Community Foundation, right? So that then you could solicit people to put us in their will, or to donate, you know, at tax time or whatever. But I think, you know, people will be skeptical unless you have something from the Community Foundation, which is a very valid and amazing organization that helps us with scoping that language, so that people could get, you know, kind of feel warm and fuzzy about, oh, I see how this could work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they did send some information, a draft, and you can mirror what you want from basically their whole mission statement. Their website has all that information as well. But you know, what we'd really have to do is this group would basically set up its own, you know, basically bylaws with its mission statement, and identify those things. You can pick them right off their website if you want to mirror what they're doing, or you make it more open in general. So yeah, you definitely, before you do that, you know, that's what will basically be identified and made formal.
Yeah, as to how broad or narrow it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I gave an example. My hometown of Canterbury, New Hampshire, does a big fair every year. They have for years and years and years. And all of the proceeds from this one-day community-wide fair goes specifically into an emergency fund for families, so that if there's a fire, or, you know, somebody really gets on hard times, but it's, you know, it's allocated very specifically for that. But they raise thousands of dollars every year in order to feed into that fund for that purpose. So we would just need to, I think, paint a picture for the next session that explains to people, you know, we could do this and just see how it grows.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all different ways. I mean, you know, you could tie this Lily Farm Tour Fest that people are talking about, that, you know, people make a donation to, you know, have theirs on the tour book, you know, whatever, or you know, some people do golf tournaments, or, you know, people sell I mean, it's crazy. Some people sell candy, or, you know, it's crazy things that they'll do to raise money for these things, or they just solicit donations. You have an annual fund drive, you know. So yeah, we can, if you think that's appropriate, draft out some, you know, what mission bylaws and what things this could be seen as a viable thing that you can show people and say, hey, this is what it's about. But that to me would be also something that if a group of people want to get together and do this, at least then they can come up with ideas and ultimately, yeah. That's a thought.
So I like your idea, Mike, about kind of going down the list and marking if there is a board or commission that we might want to direct this input to them. Like I think the farm, the ag committee should be interested in a lot of the things that are on this list, for example. And they may have a lot of reasons why there are no farmers right now at the Ashford Farmers Market, because they don't maybe think that it's worth marketing there. I mean, there's business decisions sometimes about these things, but there seem to be a number of other things related to farms and farmers. This notion of having an open house at farms to educate residents of what is here. Well, the farmers have got to want to do that and
Definitely.
feel like that benefits them. And if they haven't done that yet, the ag committee may have a very good reason why they haven't done such a thing, because it's very popular, right? So, but I think to at least forward to them and highlight, hey, Luther, I think he's the chair, here are some key things that came out of this that you should just be aware of. I mean, everybody wants to love farmers, but if farmers really don't want to play and be part of a tour or an activity or, then that's right. That's their choice, right? I mean, that's, I think, some of the challenge they've seen there. I'm also curious about, there were a couple of mentions of a central location for people to come together and that we need a town center. Well, we built a town center. I mean, it doesn't have anything commercial going on in that town center except for the Cumberlands, but we invested big, right? To do a beautiful town hall, to do a beautiful senior center, to do a green where we have activities. Were people looking for that to be a commercial space, like a business that served that purpose, or just a space that is a gathering place? Because I'm just kind of confused. I don't know if anybody was in those groups to understand those couple of comments about that.
I was. My sense was that they were looking for an actual meeting place, like a coffee shop,
Mhm.
where people could just meet up with one another. And other people talk about a gazebo. And I said, well, we've got a gazebo at Pompey Hollow Park. Oh, well, it's not out on the road. And I'm like, well, you don't really want it on the road, I don't think, right? Because you want it to be more quiet and more intimate, sort of. So this is another thing. I had a couple people that were interested in further discussion, but they were busy and couldn't discuss it right away. So I think that's something else that needs to be followed up on. I did want to ask about this foundation. First, I want to mention that my understanding of one of the problems with getting money has to do with the Ashford Arts Council being part of another group or working with or meeting with, and it's either Willimantic or Windham County, I don't know, Arts.
Wyndham Area Arts Council is their
Okay.
fiduciary.
But the problem is that Windham Arts Council and Ashford Arts Council are both interested in getting grants from the state, but it's single entity if Ashford is in with Windham. So Ashford cannot get grants from the state. And so and then I've been talking to people about how difficult or easy it is to get a 501c3 designation. And apparently it would take $1,000 or $2,000 and a lot of time. They have to prove that it's a nonprofit. So it sounds like kind of a pain in the neck for a small group to have to go through that. So that's another issue. And I have a question about this document, Mike, that you sent out. and I might be misreading it, but on page 2, where it says additional guidelines for donor advised funds. So my understanding of a donor advised fund is that a person donates to it and essentially earmarks where their donation should go.
Yeah, I can.
So let's just say I'm really interested in the Ashford Arts Council, so I donate $1,000 to this, and it says, and I say I want it to go to Ashford Arts Council, but I think they have to then apply for $1,000, and they would more than likely get it. But number 1 on page 2, I think it's page 2. Grant recommendations may be made to qualified charitable organizations. I'm just not sure who can receive these funds.
Yeah, I think we're getting into the weeds of this. I think this is for this meeting. I think we can have another meeting for people to get into more of the details of that kind of thing. I think we want to just kind of begin to put these things in bigger boxes again. Because I haven't even, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even read the thing I sent out to you, because I just realized that she had sent it out this afternoon. You got it like 2 seconds after I realized I had it. So that's something to go through a group to digest it, make sure they get all those questions. Maybe we get an attorney involved, or town attorney, or maybe somebody will want to be on this committee and be pro bono and go through all those details, work out all that stuff. That's for down the road.
Right.
I want to just follow back. Margaret had a question about the ag thing. One thing I want to do, check off the box here. There was a comment made at the meeting about that the Ashford businesses are being boxed out of the farmers market, and I do not believe that's true. There's been an outreach effort both to some people, the farmers, and real truthfully, the coordinator of the farmers market, the market managers, had a very difficult time getting, for whatever reasons, Ashford farmers and other people to actually be part of it. We're going to be looking to do something with maybe the old ABA list or something through EDC with the farmers market. One of the April farmers market engaged those people. Again, I just want to clarify that I did follow through on that, because I was a little concerned about that, and I don't think that's was quite representative in the way it kind of played out, I think. So anyhow, but there is, what it does point to though is, we're trying to do things for Ashford, and they have an Ashford farmers market, and there's really only one farmer that has stuff growing in Ashford, and we'd like to get that more representation, and high visibility. So that's something, obviously, as we look at the things that Margaret was saying, is maybe that's been one thing to identify and re-engage with the commission on what can we do to help and why, get the root cause.
Loretta has applications and there's no bias. First come, first served. So sometimes people don't know this. Jackie is in charge, but she gets those applications, and sometimes people don't know about that, and they think that there's a bias against them if they're in town or they're out of town, but there isn't any.
Well, my understanding is that when Jackie, because I spoke to her about it, because Shantae Fields bakes, and she had signed up to be on the waiting list to get in, but then Jackie took over and hired, and got a different baker, and Shantae said, "What the heck?" And Jackie said that whoever had done it before her did not pass on a list. So whoever was in line, it was discarded.
I just know Loretta spoke about this a few days ago at the CC, because she knew there was a misunderstanding and she was trying to clarify it. So, but I'm not there. I don't know any of this. Maybe you should bring that up with Loretta, who's in charge.
So
well, I think it's definitely a Conservation Commission responsibility. So I guess the bottom line is people would like to see Ashford farmers at the Ashford Farmers Market. I don't know who's interested, but we know who the farmers are. You can get that information from Town Hall, and maybe she should contact them and find out who. But I know, for example, Westview Farms has meat. Bodle Farm has meat. Day Spring Farm has meat, and yet we've got a farm from Canterbury selling their their beef and chicken.
So
So
she did reach out to all those
I don't
people.
know how that works.
Yeah, I
Um,
just think that farmers have to decide how they and where they would like to market. We have a flower farmer, Muddy Feet Flower Farm. She goes to Westport because it's not worth her time to market her flowers in Ashford when she can drive to Westport and
Yeah.
market them for a much higher price. Bottle Farm's the same way. So I think that we need to, like we can make it available to farmers, but farmers have to decide themselves how and where they want to market the products they produce. So I don't think we should assume the worst. And I'm sure every year Jackie reaches out to them again when it's time to recruit again. But just because Ashford farmers aren't there isn't because we don't let them. They might
Right.
just not want to be there.
Right.
They might rather go to Stonington or Mystic or some other more lucrative, bigger market, Coventry. So it's just, I think we just have to be careful that we don't, ostracize her that she's screwing up somehow. So,
No,
but there is a lot
No,
of
I don't
that
think
that
it's
we
her
need to get
fault.
to the bottom of. No,
Yeah.
So why don't we go through the list here and see if we can just kind of put them into a bucket of sorts here, and maybe if there's either a bucket that of this might be something a group outside group may be interested in, may identify that group if we know it, and then some things that we think might be worth kind of bubbling up to the top to bring back to the next meeting to see if we can get some champions to move these identified thoughts further along. That sound like a plan? Okay, so why don't we start on the first page, and we'll use Nora's kind of bucket she started with, and see whether there's things within these that we think should be added to some other.
This is the transcription of the breakout groups. Is
This
that what
is
we're talking about?
I think
bullets.
do you want to do that one, or do you want to use the community building social, the needs? Do you want to use that list, or do you want to use the list?
Oh, the categorized one.
Which one do you
I-
guys feel would be a better way to do this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's up to you.
Anybody have a preference? Because I think you kind of summarized the groups here. I kind of went through it. I didn't see any real other items. Why don't we take the community, the one that's broken into groups, and start with those, because I think we'll be running into multiple. A lot of groups had similar thoughts. So we'll start the community building social category, and the first item was some kind of social center. This one had like a subgroup of sidewalks, which is part of the original RSA initiative in the project. Anybody have a thought on where that belongs with anybody in particular, or just we could pick a third bucket of not deal with it right now.
Well, I think it's a POCD thing. If that's, part of the vision for the town center, and it's big bucks, and there's got to be a need. But yeah, seems to me that's like a POCD committee kind of thing.
The next one appears in a few places, but the space for vendors, I think there's somebody thinking about like the incubator concept of having some facility where businesses or people could come and show things, whether it was art or they had things they wanted to show, and have.
Yeah, that's a EDC maybe.
Yep.
I think that's in our camp.
Yep. And then make Ashford Academy a usable space. I know that there's something that I guess the Historical Society has taken on new leadership, and they're actually doing something with the Connecticut collections, where they're going to be really digging into trying to categorize everything. But I don't know what this may not.
Yeah, I just found out that they've reorganized, and I just went to a meeting the other day, and then that is on the radar right now, Ashford Academy, and getting that in good shape, fixing what needs to be fixed, and going to check for insect damage. And
so that was the Historical Society then thing?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we got a new organization.
Okay. Social support for townspeople. I think that probably falls, I mean, there's a couple of cross purposes there, but, I think do you guys remember, somebody made a comment relative to that it, kind of connecting what's going on with the churches group and, Ashford does have a high poverty, rate, believe it or not. And this could be something maybe town and churches, I don't know, social services.
Yeah, I think it's social services and, the food bank and the churches. But the foundation could play into this too in the long run if we did that.
Yeah. Foundation, yep. And public transportation. I think the town does have a transit committee. But I think this was more for that people were looking for something beyond Uber, or that the town does have its own senior bus, right?
Right,
So
but that's it. Yeah, so I had this discussion the other day. This is a question that's going to show up on the POCD survey. And I said, what public, it's like, should we expand public transportation? And I said, what public transportation? Because I don't think that the senior jitney bus is public, particularly if it's only for
No.
seniors, right? So I think the idea for this would be to have the bus that runs from Willimantic through Mansfield to come down 44, maybe to Town Hall and then turn around or something. But I don't
There's
really
been
know.
there's been a major initiative organized. They met at EastCon. I think they did 2 different ones because this has been identified in our congressional district as being a major impediment to our economic growth, is lack of public transportation for many people in our rural communities. If you're on the bus line, Mansfield to Willimantic, right? Sometimes Willimantic to Danielson, but the hinterlands like us are not served this way. So I know there's been a major initiative. I don't know what the status is of that. It's not something I could possibly have attended. But
is that part of NECOG would really be part of that too, wouldn't they?
I would think so. And I suspect they were at the table. What did they did it as a major charrette thing, a transportation charrette. So we could find out some more through
Okay.
some of our
Do
contacts,
we
I
have
think.
a dial-a-ride in our area? Margie, do you know?
I don't know. I think so. I think you can dial up and get someone to come take you, but it's just not 100% convenient. But I do think we're part of dial-a-ride.
Yeah, I thought there was a shuttle. It's like a small bus and it would take you to the doctor, but it only operates between, up to a certain time in the afternoon.
But I think public transportation, we're kind of talking, can I get to work 5 days a week by riding a public, without driving my own car? I mean, that is my interpretation of public transportation, right? It
was getting to the doctor when you could no longer drive.
Yeah, so part of it's a social services thing, and then part of it is just a common, transportation option. So I'm not sure where that fits. But I do think I'm glad it's going to be on the POCD survey, but I think it's huge. It's a major problem in our whole area.
Right.
Collecting oral histories, again, looks like that was in the Ashford Citizens of the Historic Society thing, I think. And right, anybody have any other thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think that in the schools, I mean, that could be a great combination project, but yeah, that's the germ of a nice little idea.
Yep. Okay, the Daylily Sing Festival.
That is underway.
On the Garden Club, right?
It's happening. We've met. Nord has chosen a date, sometime in June, I forget. So it's just going to be a small deal the first year. See if anybody's interested. There was talk about, having a gathering at the beginning of the day. And I think we'll probably end up talking about that more in the spring. to see what else will happen. But
Okay.
that's Nord's baby.
Okay, engage more people in town activities. I guess that's an ongoing thing, more general thing, the town, everybody, I guess. I don't know. Anybody have any specific thoughts on that one?
Well, we should be standing out tomorrow when everybody in town comes to vote and have one-on-one conversations with people about, we really need everybody. You know, like, you can come cast your ballot, but we need you next week on this committee and that committee and that committee if you want to make change happen in Ashford. I mean, it's really, that's what it is. It's a ground level,
Grassroots.
talking one person at a time. And that's the same thing with reaching young families. I feel like we need to spend some time at the ballpark, and the basketball teams when they play this year is sitting on the stands, introducing yourself to, moms and dads and saying, we really need people who are not 65 and over running our town, and that's you. So that's, it's a grassroots thing. Not everybody's, comfortable with it, but that's what it's going to take to get people to do that. It's not it can try to do a campaign to go with it, but
Yep.
But it's press and flesh. So
Yep. Create a dog park, rec commission still. See whether they
That would
want
be a nice community gathering. I don't think there's a whole lot of interest in this. I think a lot of people, it's rural, they walk their dogs in their own land. So I don't know, but I thought it would be nice for the community, but it doesn't seem like there's much interest. So
Sherry York said they were going to talk about it at their meeting before our meeting, but I never did hear how that went with the commission.
But I've heard very positive things from other towns. As I've mentioned before, certain groups of people meet at specific times every week, and it's been a very positive thing. So,
well, I think it goes back to, if we could put together 3 or 4 people who are like-minded with you, Maureen, and do a little, research about what they cost and how much land you need, and, like, just to have some basic information as a way to tantalize, to see what kind of, traction we could get for it. So if there were other people other than you who mentioned this the other day, then maybe there's some other people that would help us with that. And lobbying.
I did go to dog park and started to research this, but I felt I didn't want to overstep Sherry. And it's been months, and I'm still kind of waiting to see what that committee feels, because it's clearly under her committee. But I went out and visited other dog parks, and financially it of course would vary. Fencing, we know, is very expensive. So, and liability and everything, but it's my feeling that we would have to work with Sherry and have to get some sort of read of how important they thought. I think of it for the dogs, but I've just heard that it's just nice for the community. Yep. People even without dogs love to come and watch the dogs play. So,
well, if it has a gazebo, I think people will come.
Yeah.
Okay, encouraging. Connect community with using various communication mechanisms. I think that's something the town has been working on and continuing to work on with their website, their connect, whatever it's called, their other app that they have. So I don't know, community, the Facebook pages and all that. I don't. Anybody else have any thoughts on that one? That's kind of ongoing. I think it's getting better, but it's ongoing.
Trying to remember exactly why I wrote this the way I did. Whether this is more about community building or whether it's more about communication.
It was more. I heard that night, communication.
Sorry?
I mean, what I heard that night was it was about communication, getting why
with
people
the town.
P&Z, agendas and all kinds of stuff, meetings, notices of things going out. So,
well, the Civic Plus program that the town is rolling out with their new website, people can sign up to get every single minutes and every single agenda for every commission. So, that's an improvement. That will be an opportunity we've never had before. So,
I will say that Somebody asked a question on the Facebook, the Ashford community page on Facebook. I can't remember exactly what it was, but she said, we should know this. This should be mailed to our homes, this information. And I said, well, it's in the Citizen. Well, I don't read that. And I'm like, well,
That's
Yeah,
the
you
same
it's
can't
old
mailed to
fix
your home
stupid.
every month. You know,
Right.
if you don't read it, then
Right, right.
I was a little speechless.
Yeah,
She wanted an individual piece of mail for every announcement from the town. And it's like, what are you talking about? That's insane.
Yeah.
So it's a question of somehow getting people to realize that they've got a little responsibility here too. You know, you can't have a one-way conversation all the time.
Yep.
Do you think that the Facebook page is excellent? Um, and I think that there are a lot of, I've been very interested in the questions about voting, this early voting. And it's been asked multiple times, when can I vote? Where can I vote? And a lot of different people answer that question. And as far as I know, they're not involved with working the election. They're just regular citizens that have that info that they're sharing. So that kind of thing is encouraging, but people keep, I mean, they just keep asking the same question. Like, I'm a registered unaffiliated, am I allowed to vote?
yeah, and that's when you just, every time they post that, you want to copy a link that's on the town website that has the answer and just put the link in. Like, go to the website. We put this
That's a
information
good
out.
idea.
Like,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
agree.
as opposed to just answering it, but saying that the town website has this information, check there first, right? Instead of
Yeah.
relying on your neighbor who,
Yes.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
opposed to the
I
idea that,
apologize. I need to take off, everybody. I love this route that we're going on, and I'm sure we'll put everything in the right pots, and I'm happy to, stay the course, but I
Thank you.
have to run.
thank you,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks
for your work.
thank you.
Bye.
As far as the communication, I've had this discussion in this committee several times. As a taxpayer in this town, I don't know why I have to go on a private site like Facebook to find out what's going on in my town, to find out if there's brush fires. I really have an issue with that. Not everybody wants to be part of Facebook, and why it
Right.
seems like if you want to know what's going on here, you have to do that. And it's just
You
too
can
bad.
sign up now. You can
Pardon me?
sign up. You can sign up for those notifications. And I know that,
Okay,
that's what this new platform will do. There always has been some platform that you could use, but this is a new improved, and you'll be able to sign up for all that stuff. So when Catherine puts out the thing about the fires, you can sign up and get that. You can get P&Z minutes. You can get Board of Selectmen minutes, whatever you want to do.
well, it's like someone's horses running down Route 89 the other day.
Well, not everything will be on there, but
Yeah, well, but that's important, especially if they're your horses. But
right.
So it just, I don't think it's always right to count on Facebook to cover this for us. And I'm glad the town will be expanding that,
Yeah.
because you're paying taxes. Why do you have to go to a private?
Well, this is a small town too, so it relies on volunteers because they don't we don't have a police department, or there's not enough people going around on every street to see what's going on. So it's I think communication, unfortunately, is everybody has to take their active role, and if they want information, you can just Google it. I mean, Google anything, it'll take you to the right source.
Well, not often on
on horses.
what's going on my time.
Yeah,
And also, but I mean, it's on that site, people are so nasty too, that is hard. That's, it's
I know.
difficult. Okay,
Okay, we'll keep moving along on that. I think it's getting better, but we'll keep our fingers crossed we can do more positive work there. Encourage General Assembly to bring back school lunches. I think that's something that's really for the Board of Ed and our legislators to do. Anybody disagree or have another thought on that? And we got to move on.
I didn't realize they had lost that. That's too bad.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the next category that Nora had kind of developed here. Needs of town, including volunteers to serve on boards and commissions, increasing tax base and revenue. Engage younger people. That's continues to be a thought. I guess that would be
That's the same as, I
yeah,
think that's the same as the one above, engage
right,
more people in town activities.
Yep.
It's just sort of under two categories.
right.
One is the need for the town and one is the need for the community. So I thought that Margaret's ideas of just meeting people one-on-one is useful.
But what activities do you mean? Other than these things we're throwing out now, if you want to engage more people to do what?
Get involved and
Get involved in what though?
Well, there's all these boards and commission openings. If we identify these potential projects and things, maybe that's something we want to get involved. Maybe there's a private group of people that want to do a dog park separate from the rec commission or somebody. I mean, I think it's a matter of what people want to get involved and spend their time doing.
We talked about this at one of the leadership meetings in a breakout group, to get younger people to be interested in serving on committees. But then they started to bring up how hard it is when you're younger and you're raising children and you have a job and maybe two jobs, they were saying, to pay for everything that they, the taxes and everything in this town, and that there just wasn't time until
Right.
you retire.
Well, these Zoom meetings are very helpful. And also I think a better approach, rather than saying get involved and go like that, you find someone's little pet peeve, someone's interest, and they have them go with that rather than this blanket get involved. Like even a committee, some point that committee was looking at, you can make a change if you participate with this. Rather, I just feel like that's so vague. Get involved, with
Point.
Well,
If somebody is passionate about something,
yeah, exactly.
then they might find time to get a babysitter or do something and
Yeah,
get to
you
it.
can do Zoom meetings, but this is how you can affect a change if you're so serious about this, rather, if you can get more specific things that people care about. So, but the
I
young,
would say,
go ahead.
sorry, I would say that it would be great to have more people at the summer concerts. I mean,
They're
there were
wonderful.
like 50 people at the one I went to. I think it would be great if we had activities that attracted more people and if people interacted at those activities. Because then that's a sense of community. And if you belong to the community, then you're
Exactly.
going to do volunteer for the community. So perhaps we need to think of other activities that these families with the busy parents can participate in, because it's something to do with their kids and other people's kids. And then they get hooked. I think that's how it goes. You always talk about the next thing when you're at one activity. What else is happening? What needs help? And I know a lot of people are flat out, but not everybody. So not everybody has kids.
Okay.
I wonder if the teachers would have any input into how we could reach these younger parents.
Oh yeah, the PTA. You can go to a PTO or a PTA meeting.
And say, what's your suggestion? Yeah,
Anybody want to do that?
I'll do it.
And we
That's
talked to
an idea.
Gina,
That's definitely an
Gina,
idea.
who used to be on the president of the Historical Society. We could get her input.
Exactly. She's a teacher. Yeah.
The next item was brought up was the sell unused town-owned property, and
Yeah.
I mean, that probably is worth town looking at and identifying all the properties that they have, because they may have some right of ways or some other piece of property that could generate some value that could be put into the open space fund.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that item was mentioned for the guy that mentioned it probably was a little more sarcastic, but I think he had a good point in his message.
I think he was dead serious. I
Yeah,
think his idea was to get the property back on the tax rolls.
Yep.
And I think that Cattle Rock is under consideration for being developed. And another property that's been mentioned is on the corner
yeah, some
of
more property,
of 44
more
and
property.
the entrance to Ashford, the Ashford Park housing southward.
Right.
That's Pompey Hollow Road, I think. So apparently there's a lot right on that corner.
The EDC
And
is working on that one.
in either one of them, I mean, his idea, I mean, he said sell Ashford Academy. It's like, well, if we can actually use Ashford Academy, perhaps as this space for vendors, or as I don't know if we need another meeting space because we've already got two, but I think that there's a lot of possibility for Ashford Academy. But the idea that we own property on a busy highway that's undeveloped, that is not generating any revenue, I think is something we need to look at.
It
Maybe
has
if the
been.
town gave a list,
I
the
just say
town,
that.
go ahead. I say if
I
the town made a list of properties that they own that aren't developed, maybe somebody might say, hey, I could rent that for a business or something, because I don't even know what the town owns. They own a lot of stuff. Yeah,
Well, that's a good point. That's something that the town can take a look at in the EDC. And EDC has been working with the town. It actually, you weren't in town, Nora, but that Moore property, they call that the Moore property. It actually came up the town vote to sell it, and Dollar General was going to buy it, and
Yeah.
town came out and didn't want it there. So Dollar General's moved down the road, so town could have gotten $175,000 and gotten the business there, and still had another private business that was still up and going. So, yeah, it's on that one. As a matter of town history, is being worked on.
The town still owns that piece and it's a patch of weeds. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The part,
So what I put for
Which
the
patch
that
of
one,
weeds?
what I put down for that cell unused is the town and EDC are working on it. Town should get put together a list and review that probably on at least every 5 years. So the grant writer grant. I mean, I know that the board of selectmen are working on that. And this one was said specifically for the Ashford community and Cattle Rock properties. Again, those would be kind of the town is involved in that board of selectmen. Anybody
Know
else?
that the Cattle Rock, they're working on a grant for Cattle Rock. This was discussed at a Board of Selectmen meeting maybe 2 weeks ago. So they were all set to apply for the grant for Cattle Rock, and then they found out they had to identify the wetlands there. So now there's another setback until they figure out how to get that done.
there's significant wetlands there. There are significant wetlands and
Right, but
people
they
have
have to
said,
know where they are
yeah,
before this thing is set up. So it just seems to drag on forever, but apparently they are talking about it with some regularity.
Yes, they are.
are they talking about trying to develop it?
They're talking about getting a grant to get the rest of the cleanup done.
Oh, okay.
Then they can talk about developing it.
Okay, a forester came to speak and said that it can't be developed because there's so much wetland.
Yeah, well, it's possible that that's the case. But yeah, that has to be mapped or we'll never know.
Correct. The next one is engaging people in town government. That's kind of a similar thing that talked about engaging people as above mentioned. So if anybody disagree with that? I think that's kind of the same thing. Getting people involved, engaged. That's part of what our meetings are supposed to begin to do. But then looking to hiring a town manager. I know that board of selectmen are looking into. Well, I mean, they've had discussions about something like this. I guess administrator or something, but I don't know how far along that is. But that's kind of a board of selectmen thing, I believe. And then the Cattle Rock, that's kind of up above. That's a whole separate category, I guess.
That's that we have to wait on that till the grant has been done for the cleanup.
Yep, and take advantage of our open spaces by encouraging agro-tourism and ecotourism opportunities. So I guess that's all right, Conservation Commission, right? And maybe the website.
Well,
And-
Margaret's
and
point
EDP.
about agritourism is important, and that is that we can't promote agritourism if there aren't any farmers that want to actually do it.
Right.
And at the town meeting, which was the Saturday after the forum, Luther made a point of saying agritourism is not a farm activity. So it's not,
Right.
there may be some limitations about what a farmer can do in terms of agritourism on a farm.
Right.
If it's
Yeah.
really a farm designated as farm, they might not be allowed to have a bed and breakfast, for example.
Right. Yep. The environment work to eradicate species, invasive species, address effects on road salt, on plants and well water.
I can tell you something about that. And that is that my husband, Joe Hendrick, went to a seminar last Tuesday on the subject. They do it at Yukon every 2 years. One of the speakers was the guy from South Windsor, Mike, and Joe has been over there twice. So he is going to start a Ashford invasive plant working group that's going to include education, and it's going to include working parties. It needs to be worked out whether the town has any money for this, or whether people will volunteer for the first year or two, etc. I was also contacted through the website email, the Ashford CT Outdoors, by a young woman who lives in Ashford who wants to start a lawn biodiversity program. And this is moving from turf grass to meadow. And she contacted me and wanted to know if we would advertise it on the Outdoors Facebook page. And I said, well, we need to have a meeting with you, with Joe Hendrick, and with Jennifer Sterling Folker, who does Pollinator Pathways, because those three groups need to coordinate their efforts so that they're not stepping on each other and getting in each other's way. And that meeting is going to take place this coming Wednesday, where we're going to learn about what this woman wants to do for lawn biodiversity, how she's going to approach it, and how everybody can work together. There should be a lot of synergism with those three subjects. So
Okay.
we'll have more information over the winter on that, but that is underway.
I attended that invasive plant working group many times over the years. Haven't been able to recently with my work schedule, but I know how well planned out it is, and I want you to thank your husband for his ambition in taking on such a difficult problem. We had a forester. You went to the that forestry lecture. Well, a few years ago, I was told that 1/3 of the plants in Connecticut are now invasives. And this forester just, in an email, I was asking him about it, and he said it's over 50% now, slightly over 50% of our plants now are invasive. They've just taken off. So when you walk in the woods, you're not seeing what it was before, unless you
But
get to an undisturbed area really far in.
not so much in Ashford. I mean, I've been places where it's horrible. There are a few spots in Ashford that are frightening. One of them is the little handicap trail from the housing past the pickleball court down to the river. That
Yes.
whole area is awful. And that may be the first place that his group starts. Another place is the Joshua Trust Trail off of Sand Hill Road. It has an acre or more of Japanese knotweed and it keeps spreading. And he
Okay, we,
spoke to Joshua's Trust and they said, we don't have the money to deal with it. And I'm like, well, you can't afford not to deal with it. So again, this is going to be an issue of fundraising, perhaps. We'll have to see how it works out. But
so that one, so we have somebody who's actually, Joe's going to be the one that's going to champion that and
Yeah.
organize it. So that kind of, that's a bucket that he'll be starting to undertake. Then
Fantastic, because it's such a problem ongoing. And I was out there with my husband like a week ago and we were just at Joshua's Trust property and and your hands start bleeding. And then after a while and you don't get anywhere because it just keeps growing back, but even thicker the next year.
Okay, so that one's taken care of. The address effects of road salt, that's probably, truthfully, that's probably the town. I know that there's the town public works.
I'd be interested to know where there's actually a problem. I don't know who it was that mentioned that. But
I think it was just a general comment. It is
they don't use salt on Boston Hollow or Barlow Mill. They use molasses. So yeah, I don't know where maybe it's the state using it on the state highways.
Well, everybody's using salt. Even the molasses has a sodium chloride additive in it. So anyhow, that one, I think the town public works, we can make sure that they know that was mentioned. We already talked about the encouraging gardening. I think that was without invasive plants, right? And then
I see I have a typo.
Yep.
Encourage gardening with invasive plants.
Without,
I think that's supposed to be native.
That's to keep Joe busy into the future. Take advantage of our open space. That one was already mentioned above. So we're on to business. Like I said, EDC. These things they did pass on to EDC, so they basically have been working on those things or aware of it. So I think we're on to, anybody else have any other comments on that?
I don't have any idea what the EDC does, so I need to go to some of their meetings and find out.
The fourth Wednesday.
So Ashford Academy is a historical society.
Yep. And so on to non-government organizations. We talked about the foundation already. That's something we can bring back to the group, I think. Space for vendors was talked about already. Affordable housing. I think that's really something that's in P&Z's bailiwick right now.
Yeah. Again, that's going to be on the survey for the POCD.
Yep. Improved communication from the town. I think we talked about that. I think that person brought it up because of everything going on with what's going on now with the zone update.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that people didn't know what was going on. It's like, well, if you want to know what's happening with zoning, then you need to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Or just read the minutes.
And people don't seem to think that that's something they should do routinely. But I've been doing it ever since last year. We attend every meeting, and it's just really interesting to see what's going on. But
well,
but I'm
unfortunately,
over
I've been
65.
involved in government for most of my life, 40 years of my career. Nothing has changed in 40 years. People just, it's easier for them to complain about something sometimes than just take initiative. And it is, but it is an issue. How do you change that? I don't know. I mean, I think we're doing things here in a positive way that.
Well, I think you just keep repeating.
But if nowadays you have Google, it'll direct you in a direction to get answers on just about anything. So, okay, then we're on to support agriculture. I think we already talked about that first one.
I think that that's going to go the POCD subcommittee wants to have a listening session with farmers. Again, we don't know if they want to have a listening session with us, but if they do, then we will find out what else they need. I mean, they have, of course, submitted a statement for the plan, and it says support farmers. Well, what does that mean?
Exactly. It's about engagement, and same thing we do with the EDC. We can't tell
Yeah.
businesses how to run their business.
No.
We're here to help.
I'm hoping that some of the farmers may want to meet. There were farmers at our group forum. So I think they may be interested. I don't know how we would reach them, whether it has to go through the Agriculture Commission or whether we can contact them directly. But I'll bring that up at some point.
The
Okay.
last item we have here is the recreation encourages support travel by bicycle by widening. That's something that I know Nord's been involved with, but EDC, in a town we had a road safety audit that identified potentially doing those types of things, but it involved the state. So I think that's an ongoing item and engagement with the DOT relative
Right.
to safety improvements. And if you watch tonight news, there's a lot more focus lately because of the number of pedestrian deaths. So hopefully maybe they'll start getting us over the edge where we can kind of begin to work on some of those recommendations that were in that road safety assessment that was done in 2018 already. So
Right.
is there anything else? So here, what I'll do is I'll try to take these things and identify those buckets. We talked about the things that we might want to forward these items to specific organizations. Some of these things that we think are projects. We've already heard about, Joe and his working group for invasives. Some of the things that are the Ashford, like the thing that was in the Ashford Citizen that the Historic Society is starting to do work on. So I think there's some,
Right.
the irony here, or the good thing is, I should say, is that there's things that are listed here that people brought up that are things that are ongoing and being worked on that people don't even know about, which is a good thing. And that's something
Really good.
we're on.
Yeah.
And maybe to get some of these groups that are working on these things, more people might be interested in working on joining the Historic Society or working on the invasive group or garden club or whatever. So I'll take a shot at it and get this back to all of you. And what I really want to be able to do is to kind of get something back to all the people who attended. I mean, I feel should have probably put out an email, last week, but maybe I'll just shoot that list of attendees a note saying, hey, stay tuned. We hope to get you back kind of a summarization of the list in a form that makes sense to everybody. I mean, even more sense to what you did, Nora. But with these little buckets and with the question, hey, do you or no want to be involved more in one of these projects or these groups, or do you know of anybody? Do you have somebody wants to get involved from a neighbor, friend, relative, whatever? I don't know. That's my thought. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea to get people, let them know it's not been forgotten. We appreciate the time you gave the town, and it's a really good idea.
Okay, then I'll do that. As soon as I can here.
We
Yeah,
the
did
list
see
here,
a
Mike.
new person on a committee, a younger person, newly reorganized historical society in Ashford, and I was really happy to see that. Some new energy.
Yeah,
We've got a lot of history here.
Certainly do.
It's for sure. The project item 4, old business, the project updates. Just let you know, I think it was in the Citizen again, but the town website is being launched next week, the 13th. And I've got to reach back to, I think it was Sherry, or I forget who it was, but there was an email that did go out. I to make sure we have Our Town, Our Future has a presence with its new email and all that jazz. So it's evolving. It's the good thing about this website that it can be updated and modified as we go along, but they're
Good.
rolling out the major components of it for now, so the groups can plug into what they want it to be. So, so I'll mention like the connection to the Ashford Outdoors website. So that's kind of what's going on there. Any other thoughts with any of that?
The just to go back to this other list, for ecotourism, that Ashford, excuse me, Ashford Outdoors website is the link on the last Green Valley and is the link on CT Visit. So that's already our big contribution to ecotourism, though we have to, it's not like you can just put that out and that's it. But
Right.
that's a real good start, I think.
Yep. I agree.
Somebody,
I do have one
oh,
thing.
it was Crooks contacted me and wanted to be put on the page with the farmers market. And I said, sure, send the information. And then she didn't. And I'm not sure if they're going to be open all winter.
I think they're
Thought,
just
I
open
think
on
she said
Sunday now. Sunday now.
only Sunday.
Yeah, I just
Right.
looked
So,
today. Yeah, that's just was today when I checked. It's only Sunday.
yeah, I thought I saw that on either her Facebook page or the town. I couldn't remember which, and I couldn't find it. But Google Maps still says it's open every day.
Mm,
So, I don't want to have to be the person to go in every 2 weeks and change their hours of operation on our website. So, what I think I might do is put a link to their Facebook page,
Right.
mhm.
and maybe if I don't know if they have a website, but I have to talk to her and find out what she wants to do. I'm not going to put it up without specific
Right.
input from her.
Good
Okay.
idea.
So,
Yeah.
One of the things I need to get done tonight is next year's meeting schedule, and I didn't send it out, but it's basically, unless somebody has objection, it's the first Monday of each month, except for the month of September, where it's the second Monday because of Labor Day, the way it falls this year. So if you look on next year's calendar, it looks like every Monday, even July 7th would be the Monday in July. That's what I will submit as our tentative meeting schedule for 2025, believe it or not.
Is Dick Williams still on this committee?
Who?
Dick Williams?
He is. He had some health issues. I'll have to reach out to him because I haven't heard from him in a few weeks, about a month.
Ray.
Ray is stepping out. I've still included him on all my correspondence, but we did talk a few weeks ago, and he's going to retire from our town in the future.
the thing is, if Dick stays on, we still need 4 people for a quorum, right? But if
Right.
he drops off, then we only need 3.
Yeah. So like I said at the meeting too, we had I said it asked several times for getting volunteers for anything, and I think it's that's what we have to keep on doing, is seeing if there's other people that want to get engaged and become part of the solution
Mm-hmm.
to solve the problems.
Exactly.
So any other new business?
I don't think
POCD,
so.
any update on in general on the POCD? I think that's moving along. Nora?
We've met each week for the last 2 weeks, and then we met, I think, 2 weeks or 3 weeks earlier for the very first meeting. So we've had 3 meetings. We have the survey almost put together. There will be a notice in the December Citizen about the survey, and there will be information about how to reach it. I think it'll be an online survey, but my understanding is it will also be printed and left around in various places like the library and town hall and whatever. So, so that as many people can get at it as possible.
Okay, thank you.
And that's where we are right now.
There's nobody.
It'll be interesting to see what actually goes on the survey, because those, I think, are issues that would go into the POCD. You know, how granular are we going to get about what kind of housing needs to be created in this town, for example, or you know, how much money should the town set aside for open space, etc. So
I don't know. Is there anybody from the public? Is number one? Is that somebody? Oh, I see number one.
who is that person? Do we know?
Yeah,
don't know.
I'm here.
Anything from that you'd like to open for input from the public on item number 7?
Well, I can start with I'm extremely disappointed.
Okay.
I find it ridiculous that in a public meeting recorded that I'm personally disparaged and called grumpy because I suggested we sell some town property. You're laughing. I don't think it's funny.
I think it's a good idea. I didn't say you were grumpy.
You did too. You said there were grumpy people there and this guy that wanted to sell town property. I don't think that's very nice. I was probably the second youngest person
apologize
in
to you,
that
Mr.
room.
Kopeck.
Well, apologies don't mean much unless actions change, but it was still a valid suggestion. And yes, I was very grumpy because I brought it up in our session, and I think Maureen was the one that was doing the recording for us, and she brought it up when we were bringing everything forward, and the first select woman just immediately dismissed it. So I had to fight to have it added to the list. It is an absolutely valid suggestion. So yeah, that might have made me a little grumpy, but I still don't think that we should be name calling our fellow townspeople names like this in meetings.
Hey,
It is being discussed by the POCD subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
well, thank
I
you.
also brought up the salt on the roads, and yes, that is a problem. And yes, we have no storm sewers in this town, so all the salt that we put on these roads goes directly into every one of our waterways and wetlands, and it is a problem. People's wells are being polluted.
Can I ask you a question about that then?
Sure.
Do you know, is the town using salt or is that the
Yes.
state?
There's salt mixed in with all the products that are used.
On every road in town?
You notice there's no sand anymore? There's very little sand used. It used to be that they used sand with a very small amount of salt. But sand has to be cleaned up in the spring, and that costs money. So we've switched to more salt content because salt burns away everything on the road, and we have blacktop initiatives now because people can't be trusted to drive safe on snow-covered roads anymore because it's the town's responsibility if they get into an accident.
Those are good
okay.
points. Anything else there, sir?
Well, that's it.
Okay, well, appreciate you attending this evening's meeting.
Thank you.
And you know, your points were noted, and I think you heard that we will be forwarding those to the town for their consideration. The EDC has been aware of a few of the properties, and it's a good idea to go through and look at the inventory of town properties at least every 5 years just to see what's there or what have you, so that it doesn't stand fallow, as they say. So thank you very much for that input.
Thank you.
Any other general comments anybody has? Or I'm sorry, skip the meeting for next input next meeting. The one thing I want us to do for next meeting is to basically be ready to kind of identify some meeting dates next year for the next forum, so that we can get that into the citizen for January, if it's going to be in January, because of the timelines we have for submitting to the editor. And in that time too, we can make sure we've got everything good to go with those things we've identified tonight in those little buckets to get to various groups and report back on any initial feedback we're getting from those groups. I will get a notice out to all the attendees again to kind of bring them up to speed, and hopefully then we can, once we've got this list kind of finalized here, we can get that out to everybody as well ahead of any future meeting we have as well. So any other thoughts on that or any other agenda items for next meeting? Okay. Any other general comments? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay,
I'll second.
thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Got a few things done, so thank you.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
tomorrow's
Thank you.
summer weather.
Good night.
Yeah. Good night.
Hmm.